This is a video that hopefully may explain some things about the deadlift to either A, beginners to the deadlift, people that aren't quite comfortable with their form, aren't very clear on how to perform the lift, and people that may have some kind of impairment, for lack of any better term, though it doesn't mean you're impaired. You may be modified. I had one fellow brother contact me that has a prosthetic leg, and he's having issues with one particular part of the range of motion in the deadlift. So it just seemed to me like, well, if you're modified, you may have to modify your exercise. That exercise may have to be modified to suit your standard, to suit you, right? So anyway, that's what I'm going to try to do here. Let's cross our fingers and hope I have some success. All right, first thing I want to throw out there is, if you have a sticking point in the lift, that is to say, let's say you kind of know what you're doing, but there's a part of the lift, a range, a place, throughout the mechanical motion in the lift where you're not comfortable and you're having problems there. Well, here's what I suggest. Like, to give an example, I got a brother out there that has a prosthetic leg. He's modified to whatever extent, and he wants to deadlift. Well, if there's a part of the motion where he's unstable, or he doesn't have the stabilizing muscles developed that he may need, which may be different than a regular person. Number one, first thing is read your body. Pay attention to what your body's telling you. And wherever you seem to be lacking, do supportive work for that. For instance, if it's in your hip flexors, then use some hip flexor stuff. You can use like adductor and abductor type of machines in the gym. You can use like hip thrust type exercises. You can do, if you have issues with your knees, then to stabilize your knees better, you would want to work on developing the musculature that surrounds the knee. The knee is just a huge, it's like your back almost, much smaller, but it's similar. It's completely surrounded by muscle. There's muscle holding that bad boy from all sides. So if everything is developed equally and evenly, that's going to give you a lot of stability in that knee that otherwise you may not have. It's going to enhance the stability of the knee. I know what I'm talking about. I had a completely torn MCL, and I never had it repaired. Never had it surgically repaired. It took 2 years to rehabilitate it. It's actually when I got out of the military, and I was, that's what actually got me into eventually bodybuilding. My first experience with really trying to accomplish something with weights was to develop stability and rehabilitate my leg, because at that time, the repair was that they would use a donor ligament from a cadaver, and that's how they would put it back together. And it had a 50-50 chance of being rejected at the time, the ligament. So what I was looking at, they told me straight up, you could either make a 100% recovery, or just as likely, at that time, you could end up on a cane the rest of your life. So I really didn't care for those odds very much. I was still pretty young. I was still in my 20s. So I set out to try and rehab it on my own just to see what I could do. I figured, what can I do? It's already messed up. And so I developed the musculature surrounding the knee to hold it together. Now, I'm not going to go out there and try to play, football and do a bunch of zigzag type of work and lateral shearing forces on it. Although I did return and fight competitively on that knee afterwards, and it held together. But at my age today, I'm not trying to do anything like that. If my life depended on it, I had to do it, it may hold together and it may get me down the road, but I'm not going to dare it to give out or dare it to have an injury. And I haven't had any out of it all these years. And I've deadlifted lots and lots of weight with it, more than just the average guy that lifts weights, that's for damn sure, and squatted a lot of weight with it, and the same goes there. So that's one thing you can do. Wherever you're lacking, supportive work. If your back bothers you from deadlifts, look at your form. Okay, if it's If it's not in the form, it's just that your lower back is weak or what have you, then you need to do like hyperextensions, reverse hyperextensions, whatever you got to do, strengthen up the supporting musculature that will enable you to perform the movement through the full range of motion of the lift with just a lot better stability and control. All right, the other thing now, if you're trying to work through a range within this lift, throughout the motion, that's a sticking point for you, you can use the rack and do rack pulls. You can use the rack where it has the adjustable uprights like safeties. I have a half rack here that I'm going to show you on. And wherever you're having difficulty at, all right, let's say just for instance that I'm fine at the top portion of the movement. And I can go probably, let's say I can go halfway down, almost like a parallel squat. But when I go beneath that, I have a problem coming back up or have a problem in that area. Okay, so then push yourself just using the range of motion that you can work within, all right, and work up with more weight in that range of motion. Set your rack up, your safeties up on your rack, your catches, so that you can work that range that you're comfortable in. Work that range and progressively add a little bit of weight. At the same time, try to move that rack downward into the area of motion where you're having problems. Okay? Not a lot, just go down one. Like this one's completely adjustable. It has like big giant thumb screws on it. So in that regard, it's very cool because I can put it anywhere I want basically. So I can move it down and then I can go down as I'm adding weight and I can dip and flirt with that line that separates comfort to discomfort or stability to instability. And as I push myself and get down into there, progressively over time, it'll strengthen me in that portion of that range. And then I add weight. It's just like progressive resistance training as always. And as I develop more comfort, I continue to lower it down. And eventually, I'm working throughout the whole range of motion. All right, for instance, let's pretend that from here, beneath this level here, this is where your problem exists. All right, let's say when you do your deadlift, you have a hard time coming up from here. Okay, it's down near the bottom is your problem. You can start with the bar here. And you can put the bar up. The only thing with this is make sure your form still remains the same. Your back up straight, it's going to be more difficult this way to keep your form right. And you just pull your deadlifts from here. Okay? Like here. And then progressively, you can move this pin down even further. We can go down a little bit more. Now you're almost your next time down, right? The next downward adjustment, you're going to basically be at where you would be with a 45-pound plate. So now you've moved it down, so now you work through that part of the motion, right? Work through that part of the motion. And after enough time of that, you're comfortable there, then you try coming up from the floor. If you can move that up higher. Say your problem lies at the top. Problem's at the top. Okay, if your problem is at, you can move it through this range of motion. You move it through this range right here. Here, pull from the top. Pull from the top. Maybe you have a problem locking out. Start to load it up, pull from the top. All right, maybe your problem just lies in form. In that case, let me show you what my form is and explain it. Everybody's got their own thing. I'm not saying this is ideal, the only way, but this is the way that I've been doing it forever, and I've been pretty successful pulling a lot of weight in my day. All right, you got the bar in front of me. I roll it to my shins. I take a double overhand grip. I don't have an alternate grip because I'm not a power lifter, I'm a bodybuilder, so this works fine for me, works better for me. Overhand grip, roll the bar to my shins. I lean back, lock everything out. My arms are nice and straight, triceps locked, head back. All right, now here's the rule. Hips don't move unless head moves. Hips don't come up unless head's coming up. This is where everybody screws up. You'll see people do this. Ass starts coming up. Look, head hasn't come up yet. Here comes my hips coming up. Then they're pulling with all back. Don't do that. Grab it, lean back, weight mostly on your heels. Pull backwards. I always like to envision I'm pulling a tent stake out of the ground or something. Right? Grab this bar, lean back. If the head's not coming up, hips aren't moving. Then come straight up. Head's coming up, hips come up. And literally when I do this, and when a lot of people do it, I tear the shit out of my shins. My shins are always bleeding when I'm deadlifting. So I don't like to wear shorts when I deadlift. Roll it up to your shins, double overhand grip, back straight, everything locked, you're ready, don't jerk. Okay? If the head's not coming up, hips aren't coming up. Do not do this. See my hips coming up, the head's not coming up? No. Head leads. Lean back, pull up, up, up. Okay? 1 rep, just like that. Just like that. And then going down, it's just the opposite. All right, a couple other little pointers might help. If you're having a problem with the form, getting it right, I suggest you do negatives. Take it off the rack. Take it off the rack. Keep in mind what your form should be. Why? Because for whatever reason, it is mechanically and psychologically easier for you to maintain correct form on the negative portion of the movement than on the positive. So if you're having problems, don't just pull it up incorrectly and hurt yourself. Put it on your rack, walk it back off the rack, and practice your form until you get it right. When you can take it down correctly, just the reverse of that is what you do when you come up. Start out light. The deadlift is one of those exercises that can hurt you. You can get hurt doing anything, but deadlift can really hurt you if your form is shitty. There's no rush. Don't pile a bunch of weight on there. You know, you're not in competition. You're not getting paid to do this, unless you are. Otherwise, play it safe. Small steps to the moon. So I hope that helps. Any questions, email, comment, and myself or even Guy Fulton. There's an expert.